Hello, everybody, and welcome to our ALS United Mid-Atlantic Goals podcast. I am Tony Heil, and I am the executive director here at ALS United Mid-Atlantic. I've been here since 2011, and so I've met many people who have been impacted by this disease. And if you've been listening to this podcast, which we're now at 60 plus episodes since we first launched it, we've talked with a lot of people with very different experiences with ALS. This includes people living with ALS, people who are researchers, people who work on our staff as social workers and nurses, people from other ALS organizations, people who are advocates, people who've lost someone to ALS, and even people outside of the direct ALS community because we're united with things like the Cures Collective to support greater funding for science research. And there are a lot of people who fit a lot of those categories at the same time. Today, I'm really happy to finally be talking with my friend Jeff Oppenheimer because he fits a lot of those categories. He has been involved with the ALS cause for many years, over 20 years. And I know it's more than that, but I don't want to get the date wrong. So he's going to give us a lot of information about his story, his wife Shelbie Oppenheimer's life with ALS, how she inspired people all over the country with her testimony and her story, and what he's doing now to help unite the ALS community online so everyone can have a voice and be connected. As always, please go back to our past episodes, which are here on Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, and welcome your input on new guests. You can email me, Tony, at alsmidatlantic.org. Visit our website, www.alsmidatlantic.org. Jeff, thanks so much for talking today.
Tony, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So, Jeff, you have a lot of experience with ALS. You were on our board here at ALS United Mid-Atlantic. And I know that I know your story a good bit, but for people who are listening, who are new to this, when did ALS first touch your life?
So Shelby and I moved to the Philadelphia area July 1st of 1995. And she had this issue of a pinched nerve that she wanted to get taken care of and have a doctor speak to it, but she was going to wait till we moved, and so we did that. And February 20th of 1996, we were told it's ALS. And so for so many people listening to this, they can appreciate what it means to have a safe drop on your head at that moment, and the life that you pictured is not going to be anything like how you imagined it.
Yeah, you're saying these dates and your life with this cause since then. There have been whole lives of people since then. Yesterday,
Yeah.
as I'm recording this, I was in Delaware where I met a really smart state legislator who was born in 1996. So her whole life was after Shelby's diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
And your whole life has been focused on helping people impacted by ALS during that whole lifetime.
Yep.
So I remember her story involves looking things up at the library, right?
Yes. So it was pre-internet. And so when she was told by her neurologist in Philadelphia, it could be ALS, we're not sure, don't look it up. So, I mean, who doesn't look it up after you're told that, right? So Shelby went to a bookstore and looked it up and understood then that it's Lou Gehrig's disease and that she had 3 to 5 years to live. And she cried right there in the store. And that was the beginning, really, of a life that we did not expect. But she was eventually diagnosed at Johns Hopkins University. And, it's a surreal moment, Tony, where the doctor's talking and he's saying things that you would only see in a cliche movie, but they're doing research all the time. And so it took a solid 6 weeks before we knew up from down. I just moved out here to start a company, and I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do the half days of starting a company, which 12 hours. So I had to give that up, and it was just a very difficult time trying to figure out one foot in front of the other.
I think it's really interesting and maybe even appropriate that her story and your story is about finding information on your own. And now you have started something along with others called ALS.Community, which is very similar to that, about information and hopefully getting good information from others impacted by ALS. So we'll talk about the rest of our history together, but right now, what is ALS.Community?
ALS.Community is a virtual town square for the entire ALS community. So one of the things that we wanted to do was to tear down silos. So it is for patients, caregivers, family and friends, clinicians, researchers, veterans, because as we know, veterans are somewhere between 1.5 to 6 times more likely, is a new statistic that I've seen. The private sector, nonprofits, and advocates. So everybody is in one place and each has their own community. And a community is a place where you can have video chats, you can have a forum, you can have a library, and it's intended for connection. And so there are many features on the site, but it's all built around connection. So you talk about information, and we have our own library with 200 plus explainer videos specifically about ALS. And so below each explainer video, there's a chat function so that people can be talking about just this one subject. And that's one way to meet somebody at ALS.Community. You can meet somebody at an event. We have, I believe, the world's only ALS people finder. So you can find people that are close to you geographically. And again, it doesn't have to be patients, it can be caregivers as well. And our mission is to end ALS isolation. It's, as many of the people listening to or watching this understand, it's a very isolating disease. And sometimes it's literally alone, and other times you can be in a room of people, but because you have limited agency, you're more of a spectator than a participant. And so our mission is to create a place where you can connect with people, and because it is a virtual community, you can leave your body behind and move freely. Like I said, it's a virtual town square. We have a main street, so you could go watch a documentary and meet your friends there. And so that's the general idea of what we're doing.
And I think it's neat that it's voluntary. So, it's not like another organization signs people up for it. I can recommend it to my friends with ALS, and I think it's a very positive thing to do. But if my friend John or my friend Paul want to join ALS.Community, that's on them. And they will know that everyone is there of their own volition instead of kind of their story being shared by someone else without their being asked.
Correct. It is a membership program. You join, it's free.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why it's a membership program is that it must be a safe space. So
Mm-hmm.
to be on the platform, you have to agree to the terms and conditions, and we've already expelled one person because of their behavior, shall we say. And so it is a safe place for anybody to come and share their story. We also have a function called Create a Community, where literally, if you get 10 committed people, 2 of them being hosts of the community, you could create a community. So right now
Mm-hmm.
we're working on a geographic community in Northeast Ohio as an example. It could be a community built around a specific genetic mutation. It could be husband caregivers. You name it. If you've got 10 committed people, you can create that community. And I mention that because you can also make that community public or private. And so you can create a private community where you can share all the things that to a group of people that it requires no explanation.
Yeah, I find that all the time, not just in the ALS world, but you find that 3 or 4 people have some connection that you didn't think of. So maybe you want to get 5 people want to start a community about video gaming with ALS. And there's so much about accessibility in video gaming. So that could be something. You could also just have, you were talking about the 1990s, you could have a group of people who really want to talk about the 90s and like their generation, which makes me feel old, I'm sure. But like that's something like you could have a group that they just need that kind of niche. And when you go onto Facebook, it's just the ALS group, and so sometimes it can feel overwhelming. So this could give you a smaller space within that space.
Correct. And Tony, if you're old, I'm dead. So you're still a very young man.
That's nice to hear, but when you go places and you find out that people are,
Oh, I get it.
you and
Yeah. Yeah.
you and I. So speaking of how old we may feel, we
Okay.
both have amazing hair, by the way. So I
Of
think that's
course.
important. But
That unites us.
and so you and I have visited Washington, D.C. many times. As
Yes.
Shelby testified, we'll talk about that in a minute. But I know that when you start going to advocacy, there's people who you meet with who are close to your age. And then after a few years of experience doing this, you get older, but the people who you meet with who are deciding things, who are wonderful people, I'm not criticizing them, but they become half your age and you're like, oh, that's what's going on.
No, I understand. Yeah, no. We're staying the same. It's just other people are getting younger. That's all.
Yes, not to get on a tangent, but it's hard for me to enjoy a lot of college sports. Not because they're not great. I can enjoy the game when I turn it on, but also now I'm watching it thinking, oh, that's practically my kid. Like he's 12, but just like these are kids playing. They were born in 2006. Like that's just hard for me to wrap my head around. So that's all I can think about when I watch college
I
sports.
understand. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think a lot of the personal sharing that goes on online is part of advocacy because, it's feeling empowered to share your story, feeling comfortable with it. You know how important that is. Tell me about how you and Shelby became and were effective ALS advocates.
So, when you looked at Shelby, she was diagnosed at age 28. You would not believe that this woman has ALS. And I've heard it pretty much since the day I met her, but I totally overreached. Just a beautiful, magnetic, striking human being. I mean, you walk into a room, especially around children, almost literally like a magnet. And so when you discover that this woman has ALS, it moves you. And so Ellen met Shelby very early on and recognized that this is someone that could carry the message. And so it started, she gave Arlen Specter, who I think at that moment was a Republican, the first ever Jacob Javits Award, and the camera loved her. So it just became, she was featured on NBC Dateline, and then, she testified before the Senate, and she was just an incredible messenger. And like so many people, once they have ALS, they just want to do everything that they can for the next person. And so we had no expectation that she would survive it, but that we had to make this awful circumstance better for the next person. And that was how it started and what we did for as long as we possibly could.
Well, you and I have testified or attended advocacy meetings many times after. I remember you were with me with one of our first in person advocacy visits after things were all virtual and shut down a few years ago. And so, what's been your experience, maybe even after? Going without Shelby and seeing the power of advocacy from others and how their story can make an impact when you talk to a lawmaker.
Well, as you know, and we've been in this room many times, the first question to always ask is, do you know someone who has or had ALS? Because if they do, enough said. It's the kind of thing that you can't unsee, and you want to do everything in your power to make it stop. And so, that's where the conversation begins. And then I remember specifically in Chuck McElhenney's office. Did I say that right? It was
State senator, I think, right?
Yeah. Who is the person on the board who is a Marine? Because there's no such thing as an ex-Marine. I can't
I'm
remember.
sorry, I may not have been in that meeting. Maybe
No,
I
this
was,
isn't
but I
you,
can't.
but I'm trying to remember. There's
Dale Miller?
Dale, yes. Dale Miller and I, Thunder and Lightning. He's a Marine, and I've got a picture of Shelby, and we were in Chuck's office, which was incredible. And in that moment, our funding increased from $250,000 a year to $500 because he felt it. And that's what it's really all about. They hear things all the time. It's about when somebody feels it that change happens.
It's really interesting that you say that about asking people if they know someone with ALS. I believe from my experience here, and I think you'll agree, that answer is yes, far more often than you may think, and it's maybe more common than ever.
Right.
Again, yesterday, talking with a legislator who was 30 years old, really smart woman, and I said, do you have any connection to ALS? And she immediately knew constituents. She said, I'm going to see what I can do to help these people. And that was great that she wanted to help them, but
Right.
more often than not, if I ask anybody, they know at least one person who has or has had ALS.
Right. Yeah, it is more common, having to do with demographics, having to do with the fact that multidisciplinary clinics in particular extend life. So if there are any patients out there who aren't going to a multidisciplinary clinic, please do that. It's just a great thing for your quality of life. And so the numbers are increasing, and it's more common than it used to be that somebody says, yes, I do know somebody who had ALS.
Yeah, I was wearing my badge with my organization on it, and
Mm-hmm.
I had someone stop me who was not a legislator, and she said, "Oh, I have a friend in this town
Right.
that has ALS or lost someone," and like it can happen so often, and it's a lot of it is because they know the impact of ALS. Nothing against other diseases, but
Right.
sometimes those are more behind the scenes or and maybe not as visual as ALS can be, and so it leaves such an impact on people.
I agree. Yeah, no, if they've seen it, then they can recite it, usually choking back emotion because of, as we all know, what it does to a person.
So this actually reminds me, May is ALS Awareness Month. May is also Mental Health Awareness Month.
Okay.
And I think it's really good for us that they're at the same time. We have done so many things talking about mental health for people with ALS and caregivers and families. So there's so much about it. But I think that something like ALS.Community and having an online community can assist with better mental health because you have friends and networks. How do you see something like this helping to positively impact people's mental health?
So our mission is to end ALS isolation. And what that's about is having enough places where you can meet people where you find your people, the kind of people that have a similar interest, similar experience, and like you don't have to say anything because it's all understood between each other. And I really admire her ALS story because of the lifeline that it presents to young women with ALS. And I'm in touch with them, and they're big fans of ALS.Community. And I've shared with them how Shelby would have loved her ALS story. And so the tighter the connection, the more that somebody feels bonded with another person. And so if you can have a group of people that have something very germane in common, like husband caregivers, then it lessens the burden on their own mind to hear other people say the things that they think they're the only ones who feel that way. So that's one way that we're working on mental health, and that's the primary way, is to find your people. In the library, we do have a mental health section along with spiritual health. That's one of the differentiators of ALS.Community, is that we elevate spiritual health. And I did speak with a person with ALS. You know, for all the heartache to get a nonprofit off the ground, creating something that has never existed before, which is a million times harder than starting a business, he said that he was having a very low moment. And they come with ALS too frequently. And he went to the spiritual health library and he watched some of the explainers, and it restored him. That, to me, was worth all of it. And the idea that we'll be able to do that for more people is very gratifying. So we try to connect people so they have that bond and lift the load off their mind that they're the only person going through it. We have resources available. And then in the People Finder, there's also an online now function. So we talk about it's 3 a.m. and you feel like you're the only person in the world who has ALS. You're alone with your thoughts and that's it. Well, not anymore, because you can go to ALS.Community, go to the People Finder, click on Online Now, and as we grow, online communities become stronger as more people join. For anybody listening out there, I encourage you, www.als.community. Community is the extension. But you can go online and at 3 a.m. see who's on and start chatting. You know, maybe at that time of the evening, you don't have as much in common with someone, but you have a lot in common, and you can start a dialogue. And the things that are on your mind that are vexing you, that had to stay with you, they don't have to anymore.
That's great. And I really liked what you said about the faith community and resources on ALS.Community. I know, like here at ALS United Mid-Atlantic, at some of our treatment centers, there's a chaplain or our social workers or nurses will connect people with that. and they're wonderful. But when you had told me personally that, oh, there's this faith aspect on the site, it's something people can check out. I know that for some people, they hear that and it can be good, but also sometimes limiting because sometimes a faith is about one faith or maybe two.
Right.
And it's extensive on ALS.Community. There are so many faiths represented, at least with some questions. So people who feel connected to that faith or that religion, they can feel respected and heard. Like, oh, okay, this is something that I can find as a comforting direction, and it can help just me, even if I don't need to do anything else, just seeing that video. And it's something that now we can help direct people to. So it was important to you and to everyone that made that it was all encompassing for people who may have different kind of faith perspectives.
Correct. And so that is in the belief section of the spiritual health library. There's also Reflect, Recharge, and Renew, where you would find an entire explainer video about Psalm 23 as it relates specifically to people with ALS. But in the belief section, there are 11 faiths represented: Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Confucian, Native American, Hindu, Shinto, which really try to cover the major ones. And I believe over time that more perspectives will be shared. But I love that because while you may be of one faith, you could pick up something that is really meaningful to you from another faith, like Native American is a very interesting one to listen to. And, you know, it's a mega store for rejuvenation in terms of you have many aisles to walk through to find that place that gives you peace of mind.
Yeah, I thought that was really nice, and it's nice to have a website that can link people to. And I think people who are listening to me talk about this might say, oh, well, you're a different ALS organization. Why are you highlighting this? One, we're united. We're the ALS community. We're ALS.Community. But two, I can go there and let people know about our ALS United Mid-Atlantic events.
Yes.
And at the same time, I can use this as a resource for our social workers and nurses to tell patients, hey, this is a place you can go online that we know they care and respect the ALS community. Nothing against Facebook, but we can't control that. It's not run by people impacted by ALS. So it's something where it can be mutually beneficial for you to have these connections with them and we can help with them so everyone can benefit.
Well, one thing you mentioned about Facebook, we are all about data privacy. There's no profit-driven algorithms. But I did resign from the board to create this organization. I didn't know what it was yet. It was like smoke from a distant fire. But I did say that what I'm envisioning is a rising tide that lifts all boats. And I believe that with my whole heart, that we are one team. And so anything that we can do to help local ALS organizations, we would be all about that. At the moment, we started with 107 beta testers, and we released the site on April 27th. We have done no promotion yet. We're actually going to do a promotional campaign next week, but we're over 300 just from word of mouth. So something is happening. When people get there, they like it. And my hope is that we'll continue to grow and continue to develop partnerships, because I lived it on the receiving end for 20 years. And then as a member of the board, you are the people that touch the people. So we're on the same team supporting those people and their families.
Yeah, and I know that there are many pockets of this country, anywhere, where it might be hard to reach people.
Yes.
And so, you're talking about on the faith area, like Native American perspective. So there are places where they may be a robust ALS clinic or organization, but it's just hard to reach certain communities.
Yes.
And so now they may feel connected to you, and then they can feel connected to another group that's local. Like, I didn't even realize that this was there. So everyone can help through those connections.
Correct. As you know, rural ALS is a big problem. I mean, finding caregivers is a problem. It's a challenge. Imagine when there just aren't that many people living around you. So any support that we can find to someone who, for whatever reason, either in a disadvantaged community or a rural community that doesn't have the immediate connection, I mean, that's very satisfying to be able to do that, to kind of level the playing field.
And in the future, we have an opportunity as ALS United Mid-Atlantic and other ALS leaders and groups and researchers that we could get some information through ALS.Community to help with letting people know about webinars,
Yes.
let people know about new research studies, start a conversation, so we can have a greater focused conversation about science and caregiving and all sorts of topics, and maybe get that feedback up the chain too, where we might think, oh, this thing's really interesting, but the ALS community may think something else is really an important focus. So we have a lot of opportunity for conversation in the months and years to come.
Agreed. We have an ALS calendar that if you have the iCal, which is fairly common, you can automatically have your events appearing on the ALS calendar. And again, as we grow, it will become a source for people to see what's going on everywhere. So there might be a webinar being put on by the ALS United in San Antonio, Texas. I'm just making that up. That might be very meaningful to you that you wouldn't know about otherwise, and we make that available to you. By the same token, someone in San Antonio might see something that you're doing and say, wow, that sounds really cool, like the Help and Hope seminar, which I was a part of creating those, and it's so gratifying to see how amazing they are now. So that's the kind of thing that with ALS.Community, that can have national exposure. The great things that came out of that doesn't have to be limited to the Delaware Valley.
Yeah, I think there's so much potential with the online community in general, where like we have ALS United in New Mexico. We have great people there, and they may not have someone that can speak about maybe a certain assistive technology device,
Right,
and we can help them, or someone else can help them.
right,
And so like we can all work together because it's the internet now. And when Shelby first got that book, that was not possible. So
correct.
the world that you're helping to create, you've been helping to create for 30 years now, is a much better place for people with ALS than it was when you just had to go through a bookstore or library.
Oh my gosh, it's incredible. The assistive technology that exists today, what I wouldn't do to have had Shelby have voice banking, just as one example.
Yeah.
So it's unimaginably difficult, but I'll sound like an old timer. It used to be even more difficult. With an eye gaze, it's incredible the level of connectivity. I had a board with letters on it. I
Hmm.
had to follow her eyes and guess at what letter she was trying to get to. And, it's very frustrating communication at times.
Yeah, and it's frustrating for you trying to be a good partner,
Yes,
and listen. And it's very frustrating for the person with ALS when they want to get that information out. And now, not only are organizations like ours helping to provide education, we're learning from people with ALS.
yes,
People may have seen our videos with my friend Stephen Cronin, who has ALS. He was part of one of the videos with our ALS United Help and Hope Symposium in April, and he's been involved with advocacy where he recreated his own device so people could watch the words on his screen while he's typing on another screen. And so we all can learn from each other. And I think that's
yes,
really the value that comes from the ALS.Community as well. It's the same ethos.
exactly. No, that's exactly right. We are aiming to let the tiger off the leash. There is so much lost capability, knowledge that is currently in silos, and we want to make it available for everybody. And when we do that, our tagline, although we think of it more as a battle cry, is "Together we're bigger than ALS." And I don't know if you can see my shirt, but
I see it well. Yep.
the ALS is smaller than the community, which is the web extension. And I believe that with my whole heart, that when we start to get a lot of people together, we can do things that maybe we hadn't really imagined until then.
Well, we're going to put the description and link in the right here in the description of ALS.Community, so people who see this video or listen online, they'll be able to go right there and visit it and get more information. So follow us at alsmidatlantic.org and follow us on social media, including those video sites at ALS Mid-Atlantic. And you can see our updates, get information, and link to organizations like this where we can. So thank you so much, Jeff, for sharing your story and sharing this. Is there anything you want to say, linking to, or as a last description of ALS.Community so we can educate people today and for the future?
Yes, there are so many challenges with living with ALS. Where do you start? But one of the most difficult is the loss of agency, where decisions are made for you, conversations are happening around you, and we're working to create a place where you regain your agency. You can move freely, you can speak freely, you're free of your body, and if we can do that, then that's a good day for everybody.
ALS.Community, we're ALS Mid-Atlantic.org. Together, we're uniting our communities. It's one community to help end ALS. Thank you so much, Jeff. I'm so glad to know you, so glad to work with you. And I appreciate everyone listening today. Continue to support us in our work to end ALS.
Thank you.